What happens when you try to take a vacation in 4 of the most chaotic and violent open worlds ever created? Today, I'm putting that to the test in Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 1, and Cyberpunk 2077. My goal is to find out which of these dangerous worlds is the best place to get away from it all. On top of that, I'll be leaving each place an honest Yelp review to let you know if it's all worth the trip or if you should completely avoid it. It's time for my first stop, the beautiful but lawless world of Red Dead Redemption 2. John decided what better place to start his vacation than Valentine. As he first rode into town, he remembered all of the past events that once took place here. That life was past him now, so he was excited to take a nice vacation here. It was already getting late when he arrived, so the first thing he decided to do was check into a hotel. Once checked in, he decided to check out his room before he tried anything else in town. The room was nothing special, but it had a bed, and that's all John needed to get through the night. Valentine was known for having one of the best saloons in the country, so first things first, he wanted to check that out. As soon as he walked through the doors of the saloon, he could feel the good vibes. Clearly, this was the most popular place in town. He decided to start off the night with 1 beer, and honestly, it was a pretty good deal. As he was taking his very first sip, he noticed everyone was starting to run out of the saloon. Since he was no longer about that life, he decided to exit calmly and not get into any conflicts. It was great that Valentine happened to have another saloon, a lesser known option. John wanted an excuse to get out of the rain, so this was the perfect spot. When he walked in, he noticed the more calm, cozy feel to this saloon. He figured this was a good spot to get some dinner. The only thing on the menu though was oatmeal, so he ended up going with that. It was pretty good, and he was ready for the next thing. He decided to go for a shot of whiskey to switch things up for the last drink of the night. After this, it was getting late though, and the rain showed no signs of stopping. He decided to call it a night and head back to the hotel. Back in the hotel room, it was time for bed. He had a good idea for tomorrow morning before he left Valentine. One last thing to do before he left. Before that activity though, he needed some breakfast as he woke up pretty hungry. This morning, he decided to check out the general store instead of the saloon because he wanted to see if they had any good local food. Ultimately, he ended up going for a simple bread roll that was made in the store for a nice and easy breakfast. Now it was time for the cool thing he had planned for today. As he was coming in yesterday on his horse, he noticed a temporary tent set up. One of those tents happened to have a movie playing inside of it, and he was gonna go check it out. He had made it just in time for the start of the moving picture. To John, these were still crazy to watch. He would never be used to this. After the movie, it was time to head to the next town. After entering the large city, he decided he was going to find his hotel room again, like usual. This time, his hotel room was located in one of the nicest saloons in the city. After walking up a grand fancy staircase he was not used to, it was time to check out his room. He couldn't believe how nice it was. This was a million times better than what he had stayed in the previous 2 nights. He couldn't believe he could afford this place. There was going to be so much to do in the city, and he had a full day ahead of him. First things first though, he wanted to freshen up. Heading to the barber shop was his first goal, to shave off his beard. After the barber was done, he was ready to start his day. The first thing on his list that he really wanted to try was the trolley cars. This was new technology he was not used to. Next on his list was checking out the theater to see a live show. Walking in, he couldn't believe how nice this place was. John decided to splurge a little bit on his ticket in order to private viewing in the balcony. The show ended up being pretty cool. John clapped along like he belonged. He still felt like this wasn't his style though, so he decided to leave the show early. Right across the street was a spot where people played dice. Unfortunately, no one wanted to play with him though. Next on his list was a movie. He felt like this was more his style, and he was excited. He decided to go in blind to the movie, not knowing what the film would be. The film was called The Farmer's Daughter, and he honestly thought this one was pretty funny. On his way out from the movie, the worst turn of events happened. John accidentally ran into a lady on his way out. He couldn't even see her, and by that point, it was too late. He was now wanted for disturbing the peace. As fast as he could, he ran away and decided to lay low until things cooled down. Since it was completely accidental, but he didn't have time to explain himself, John just decided to pay off his bounty and call it a day. He was pretty hungry after all that running and wanted a quick snack that he could use for lunch. He decided to head to the general store. He decided to go for a block of cheese, a nice, easy meal. After that, he wanted to check out the city's saloon scene. He found one more his style, less fancy, nothing crazy, just what he liked. It was still a little bit too early, he felt. He didn't want to have any drinks yet, so he just looked around. Definitely not the busiest place, but it was cool. After a good day so far, he decided to head back to his saloon. This time, he opted for a real meal, and for dinner, he ordered some prime rib. Of course, he couldn't go today in this nice saloon without having a shot of whiskey. The rest of the day, he enjoyed his time at the saloon, but now it was bedtime. Before bed though, he wanted to check out the balcony that came with his hotel room. As he walked out onto the balcony, he couldn't help but realize how nice the city was. He used to hate the city, but now that he actually was vacationing in it, he enjoyed it. He had one more thing planned for tomorrow morning before he left the city, but overall this was a great day. The next morning right away, John went to his next activity, which was getting a custom portrait photo taken of himself. He tried a ton of different poses, backgrounds, everything. Finally, he settled on one he liked and took the photo. Now he was done with the photo, he was ready to leave Saint Denis. He was not quite used to cities yet, but his time here was well spent. He came up on his next town, Meet Van Horn, the almost abandoned trading post. This town certainly has seen better days. Like usual, the first thing he did when visiting a new town was check into the local hotel. The room was in a pretty cool location, but the inside conditions were by far the worst that John had seen so far. To be honest, the room looked pretty trash from the last person that stayed here, clearly. Thankfully though, this town had an open saloon unlike the last one. John decided to go check it out. He wasn't in the mood for any drinks, so he just decided to look around the saloon. This one looked very barren and empty compared to the ones in Valentine. To be completely honest, after that, there's not that much to do in this town, but John had a really good idea. There is a lighthouse here in Van Horn, and John wanted to climb to the top. After a lot of stairs and one more ladder, he was now at the top. What he saw was a great view of the town. Even though this was a rundown place, it still had a special charm to it, and he enjoyed being up here. Without that much to do, John spent the rest of the day talking with the locals, just chilling around his hotel room, and had a quick dinner by the water. As the sun set, he got more and more excited for where he was heading tomorrow. Just before bed though, he decided to chill by the fire for a little bit to warm up, and then he went to sleep. Excited for the trip ahead, he left right away in the morning. Saying goodbye to Van Horn wasn't that hard, but it also was better than he thought. Just in time, John's train stopped at Riggs Station where he needed to be. This was his stop, but it was not the end of his journey to the next town. The next leg of this journey involved a quick horse ride. All of a sudden, John was now in the next town, Strawberry. Strawberry was a beautiful little town. Just like the last, it wasn't big, but it had a lot of character. As you know by now, John headed to the hotel where he would be staying. His room was located in the Welcome Center. When John walked into the room, he was amazed at how large and nice it was. John then realized that his room came with the best balcony view in the whole town. Right across the street from the hotel was the general store. John decided to go get some food. He felt like buying a carrot today and some canned peaches. Strawberry was a great scenic town for walking around, so it was time to do that. John met a fisherman and asked him if he had caught anything. Apparently Strawberry was famous for this guy playing 5-finger fillet, so John decided to challenge him. He decided to get a couple practice rounds in before actually challenging him. Eventually, he got the hang of it and started going super fast. It was now time to put some actual money on the line. John's opponent was pretty good, but he knew he could beat him. It was now John's turn to go, and oops, he accidentally hit himself, but don't worry, he decided to lock in, and look at how fast he went. John ended up taking the victory in a solid performance. After the 5-finger fillet, he decided to chill it out a bit. Good thing there was an outhouse here, because he had to go to the bathroom. Like usual, John liked to talk to the residents of the communities he was visiting. He even decided to listen to the local reverend and his sermon. Probably the coolest part about Strawberry though is the various bridges over this river. John's curiosity peaked when he noticed this ladder. He wanted to climb it to find out what it went to. What he found at the top was this empty water aqueduct. It looked like it took the water from up there and into the river. Being dumb, John decided to have some fun, and he followed this thing to the end. Continuing to make poor choices, John thought it would be fun to jump off of here into the river. He severely miscalculated his jump and hit a rock, almost drowning in the river. Thankfully, he was able to grab onto a nearby rock and safely gather himself out of the river. John decided that was his cue to play it easy the rest of the day. He decided to partake in one last adventure of the day though. He headed over to the jail right next door. After speaking with the sheriff, he gave him permission to go down and check out the jail cells. John said hi to the 2 prisoners in the jail cell and thanked himself and his brain for never ending up in this situation. For real this time, John went back to his hotel and decided to spend the rest of his day on the balcony watching the town go by beneath. Since there was no saloon in this town, he decided to call it a day and head to bed. After John finished his entire vacation in the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, he decided to give it a final Yelp rating of 3.5 out of 5 because some of the towns were hits and some were misses, but overall it was a good experience. Next though, it's time for some civilization and modern life, which is why next up we're heading to GTA 5. Michael woke up nice and early to start his adventure. He had no time to waste as he was starting his vacation today. The next town he'd be staying at was Vespucci Beach. He booked a hotel that was right on the water and parked his car. After checking into the hotel, Michael could finally explore the beach. His hotel was right on it. He first saw some cool workout equipment super close to his hotel if he wanted to use it. To start his day here, he was just gonna walk down the shoreline and see if he could find anything cool. He saw a cool park to his side right by the beach and an awesome outdoor gym. He also noticed a pickup tennis court where he decided he actually wanted to play. He found a random lady to go against, and it was game on. Michael served first, and after a couple volleys back, she ended up scoring the point on him. Not a good start for Michael. Once again, she unfortunately scored on him. He was really gonna have to step it up. Finally, he got his chance and actually scored on her. Michael was pumped up. Unfortunately though, the rest of the game didn't go his way and he lost. He rehydrated after his game, and he was ready to keep going. As he made his way towards the end of the street, he noticed a bike rental spot. He rented a bike for the day. He chose this green one. Michael was gonna use this to bike all over town, and it was perfect since he found a bike-only path. Of course though, people didn't listen to that. It was super cool to ride next to the beach. He was glad he rented one. He followed the path for a while, looking for something else he could do. Eventually, he came up by his hotel again, and he decided to head on this boardwalk towards the water. Up ahead, he saw something super cool, so he got off his bike, where he saw some jet skis. Michael went over to go see if he could rent one, which he was able to for an hour. He ended up choosing the red one, and as he got on, he could not wait to get this thing going. He revved it up and started to move, and with no hesitation, he let it rip. This was so much fun. He ripped around these waters like it was nothing. The waves were huge today too, so he could get some serious air. He was for sure gonna buy one when he got back home. They had some jumps set up in the water, so Michael wanted to try and hit one. He ended up getting some serious air on this first one. He loved doing these donuts with the jet ski. After that though, his hour was up, so we parked the jet ski back at its spot and he went back to shore. He went to go see if these guys also rode jet skis, but clearly they did not want him there. They pushed him away. Michael ran away because he didn't want to start conflict. That life was behind him now. He was retired. That gave him the perfect opportunity though to go check out what was on this side. He saw these cool telescope things, so he decided to look through them. He did a little stalking, of course, and he saw the pier he'd be going on later, and the giant Ferris wheel as well that he wanted to go on. This was his cue to go head over there now. It was time for the famous boardwalk. First things first, he was hungry, so he went to go get some food. He ended up getting some seafood here. After that, it was time to explore the boardwalk. He saw a bunch of cool stores and saw the rides area. He noticed a street performer with a crowd. This was one of those guys that acted like a statue. Of course, he had to get a picture of him, and then a selfie to show his family. After that, he decided to go mess with him to see if he'd break character, and of course he actually did, pushing Michael out of the way. Michael decided that was enough, so he decided to walk to the end of the pier, which was pretty far out from land. He walked to the very edge and of course had to look through another telescope. He saw a sailboat far off in the distance and called that enough. He now wanted to ride on the rides, specifically this roller coaster. He noticed a couple other cool ones as well. It was time for the roller coaster. Michael walked up the queue excited, as there was zero line as well. He was ready to ride the Leviathan as the roller coaster made its way up the first drop. Once it made it to the top, it was time for the first hill. To be honest, this roller coaster was a lot less exciting than he expected. It was pretty short with a couple drops and hills and some big turns as well, but that was about it. Of course, it still was a little bit fun for Michael. He realized he should take a quick selfie for his family to show him what he did. Next up, it was time for the Ferris wheel. Again, there was zero line. He was excited to get on for a chill ride. He was now on the Ferris wheel, and this was honestly a perfect time since the sun was starting to set. He saw the jet ski area below him where he once was and looked at the sunset. He saw a helicopter in the distance. He was now at the top. The view was awesome. He was glad he went on here. Eventually, he got off and was done with the Ferris wheel. After that, Michael went to go look at the sunset as he just chilled out on the pier for a bit. Michael had one less crazy idea up his sleeve though, as he jumped off the pier into the water doing a crazy dive. It was barely deep enough though, thankfully he didn't die. As he swam back to shore, he realized how dumb but fun that was. After that, he headed back up the pier and headed to a burger place since he was really hungry. After that, he decided to head back to his hotel, but it wasn't bedtime yet. He had one last exciting thing for the day. This hotel had a rooftop pool overlooking the water. Michael was gonna make use of this. This hotel was definitely worth the money. He took a quick dip in the pool and then also went into the hot tub. He had a long drive tomorrow morning though, so he headed to bed. The next morning, Michael checked out of his hotel and started his long drive to the next location. This was going to take Michael a couple of hours, which is why he left early. Michael could see the scenery change around him as he neared closer and closer to his location. He drove through a tunnel and was now almost there. He was now at his next stop, Paleto Bay. The first stop in Paleto Bay was exciting. He quick parked his car and saw what he'd be doing next. Michael was going to take a cable car all the way up Mount Chiliad. He made sure to take a picture of this one. He took a selfie to show his family later and then headed to the entrance. He had never taken the cable car before, so he was pretty excited. As soon as he got on, it was time to go. Michael looked up at the huge mountain ahead of him. It was crazy he'd be up there shortly. He could already see the town of Paleto Bay that he'd be going to soon, as the cable car started to make good progress. Good thing Michael wasn't scared of heights, because just like that, he was almost there, as he saw the station, and he was now at the top of the mountain. Michael instantly saw the crazy view below him. It was time to head to the very top though. Michael was met with a crazy view, even seeing Los Santos in the distance. He kept going though and finally reached the very top. He noticed some dirt bikes up here and went went to go look through this telescope where he saw Los Santos all the way from here, and he saw the prison. It was cool for him to see everything up here. He noticed a crazy looking ramp off in the distance. This thing sure looked sketchy. After ignoring the danger sign, Michael kept walking as he made it to the very edge of this platform. This gave him some major vertigo. He was excited to actually get to Paleto Bay soon. He ran back up the mountain and eyed up these dirt bikes. No one was around, so he hopped on. With his helmet on, he was ready. Michael was ready to rip this thing down the mountain. First up was a crazy drop. Somehow he was able to make it very smoothly. He was now on the trail. He was going to go fast but also be careful at the same time because he was literally on a giant mountain. All of a sudden though, Michael took this turn a little bit too fast, and just like that, he was off course. He was flying down the mountain, not knowing what to do. Somehow he was still able to remain up and slowly stop the bike. That was a close one. He tried his best to find the trail again, but the mountain was way too steep to get back up. He tried using speed to go back up. Instead, he ran into a tree. This was terrible for Michael, and he was now stuck on the side of the mountain. He recollected himself, thankfully not injured. At this point, the bike was toast. There was no use. Michael realized he was going to have to get out of this one on foot, except the hill was far too steep and he took a bad fall. He continued to roll down the mountain as he couldn't stop himself. Thankfully, eventually he did, where he got right back to running. Except once again, Michael went too fast and slipped down the mountain. This time though, it was much more serious. It was a super steep part. He just continued to roll down and down the mountain, no stop in sight. Eventually he got to a steep cliff and fell right off of it in a huge hit to the ground. Thankfully, he was somehow okay after that and got right back up. He needed a good second after that one. Thankfully, that fall led Michael right to a trail, so hopefully it was going to be safer from here on out. He had no clue where this trail went, but his only hope at this point was to follow it and hopefully it made it to society. It didn't help that the sun was already starting to set as well. Eventually, Michael saw a road up ahead where he was saved when a taxi was somehow able to get to him after calling for one. He was going to take this all the way to Paleto Bay to his hotel. Well, it was a long ride, but Michael had made it. That was definitely a major detour in his trip that he was not expecting. As he was walking to the motel, he noticed something crazy behind him. All of a sudden, a truck was flipped on its side. It looked like there was a police chase happening, and the guy just randomly got out the top. He could not believe his eyes. It didn't help that every truck was now running into this flipped over hazard. This was a wild introduction to Paleto Bay. Michael had enough of today and headed to bed. The motel he stayed at was nothing special last night, but it did its job. There was no pool or anything, unfortunately. Since Michael never got to see the town yesterday, he was going to do that today. He called a taxi really quick, which came pretty quickly. Since he didn't have his car, he was going to find something else for today, which involved heading into town all the way to Los Santos Customs. On his way there, his taxi driver drove straight into a pool. This trip so far couldn't get any weirder at Paleto Bay. The guy kept going like it was nothing. Michael made it to his destination, where he found what he was looking for, a car he could borrow for the day. Don't worry, he told himself he was going to return it when he was done. He used it to head straight downtown, where he just wanted to look at everything. Eventually, he found a place he wanted to stop. He was going to get some breakfast at this bakery. He ended up having a muffin. Then he continued on his way to explore the rest of the town. This time he wanted to explore the coastline neighborhoods, which had decently nice houses. They were okay. Eventually, he whipped off the road into this parking lot to take a look at the beach area. It looked pretty nice, but it was not the best weather for a beach day. He got back in his borrowed car and decided he had enough of touring this town. He headed back to return the car where he got it from. He was ready to move on.
Overall, GTA 5 provided Michael with a great vacation experience, except for the fact human error ruined some parts. Therefore, it'll receive a final Yelp rating of 4 out of 5 stars. So what happens if I want a vacation in a different country now though? That's why next up, I'm going back in time to Red Dead Redemption 1 to find out.
After a long ride, he finally made his way up to the next town, Tumbleweed. Except there was a major problem. This town was taken over by criminals. The local sheriff had been captured, so he'd do whatever it took to try and save him. He was getting pelted from all angles though. He slowly took them out one by one as he advanced his way into the town. Eventually he cleared out all the ones he could find, and he thankfully found the sheriff. He quickly untied him, and he briefed him on what happened. The sheriff told him there was still some in the mansion, so they headed that direction. As the sheriff was running though, he was shot and killed. Jack had just witnessed his death. There was just too many of them, and to Jack, it was not worth it to stick around and find out if he'd survive or not. This was his cue to leave the town and get away as fast as he could. Tumbleweed sure didn't go his way. It was also starting to storm. Jack needed shelter fast. Thankfully, he found a tent he could rent for the night. He called it early and headed to bed. When he woke up, the rain had stopped. He quick ate some breakfast at camp. He climbed this giant tower as well, because he wanted a great view of where he'd be going, which was Mexico. Before he left though, he noticed a guy looking for an arm wrestle. Of course Jack had to play. 3, 2, 1, they went, but he lost immediately. He couldn't believe it. He opted for a rematch, only to get the exact same result. That guy was good. He didn't let that get to him though, because he was now crossing the border.
Welcome to Mexico. He was now at the town of Chuparosa. Jack knew minimal Spanish, but he was excited for this town. This was a much different experience than the Wild West towns he was just at. He knew his dad spent a lot of time here though. He got some food at the market and checked out a bunch of different stalls. This was a very lively area. He saw another guy making horseshoes like earlier, then he decided to explore town. He wanted to check out this building, which must have been the sheriff's office. Hopefully he wouldn't sleep in here for tonight. He went to the top floor to get a nicer view of the town. Next he wanted to check out this church. It was pretty nice in here. He spent a moment looking around. After that he decided to head to what looked like the saloon. Of course he had to have a drink. This was a nice area. Like usual though, he headed to the blackjack table where he hit and busted with a 22. It looked like his luck was really out now. Finally decided to head to his room, which was actually very spacious, way bigger than he thought. Jack noticed something fun. He lined up his shot and fired, shooting off all of these candles. Great accuracy training. That was enough messing around though. The sun was starting to set. He'd be working the night shift. Once again, he was tasked with keeping the place safe at night, with the dog at his lead. Very quickly though, the dog started running. Jack was witnessing a holdup. He quickly lassoed the guy from behind, saving the other man and tying this guy up. The job was not over yet though, as the dog lunged again. This time he had to save a woman from a gang. The lasso clearly wouldn't cut it for this job though, as Jack narrowly got the cover. He pulled out his gun and started taking them out. Outmanned but not outskilled. Quickly he finished the job, leaving none of them behind. His night shift was over. He was then rewarded for his actions, whereafter he headed to the saloon to relax. He decided to have some fun again, where like before, he drank way too much. He was stumbling his way through the saloon in a country he was not familiar with. What an adventure this had been for Jack Marston so far. Eventually, he tripped and fell, hitting the ground. This had been a crazy night. He made his way back to his room, where he headed to bed for the night. He woke up to a nice day outside, but as he was leaving town, a shopkeeper asked for his help in assisting with capturing a thief. The man made it far, but Jack caught up and shot him to his death, where he retrieved the stolen funds. Upon returning though, another man asked for his help. He wanted him to tame this wild horse. After numerous attempts, he was able to get on it and tamed the horse. Jack was making some good money. It was finally time to leave town, because he still had one awesome location to go to. He had a long ride ahead of him. He eventually made it to the next town, Escalera. This one looked super cool. He quickly hitched his horse up and first headed to where he'd be staying. This room was pretty nice, except there was a hole in the ceiling. As long as it didn't rain, it'd be good. It was now time to explore the town. Jack headed to the market first to get some food, where he also bought some fish from a man. This was the best market area so far. It was time to head into the core of the town though, where Jack found a gun store. He always just enjoyed browsing because there was still more to explore. There was one really cool landmark of this town, the governor's mansion. Thankfully, the guards let him in. This place looked so nice. Of course, Jack had to go check out the inside. He sure wished this is where he would be spending the night, but of course it wasn't. It was fun to see though. After climbing one of the guard towers, he was able to get a great view of the city from above. Since it was getting later, he headed back into town, finding this cool deck. He honestly loved this town so far. Of course though, he couldn't come here without checking out the saloon. This was one of his favorites so far. He wanted to try a new game, so he was gonna play Liar's Dice. To be honest, he had no clue how to play. It didn't help that he didn't know Spanish as well. He wasn't quite sure if he won or lost, but he called that good. After the saloon, he headed down, where he got some stew and chilled by this fire. Then it was time to head to his room, where he headed to bed. Besides the hole in the roof, his room was actually really nice. He woke up super early for the long ride back, as today he was finally heading back home. On his way out, he noticed some 5-finger fillet, and of course he had to try and end on a winning note. He knew he could beat this slow guy. Jack started off on a bad note though, hitting himself, but locked in the second time and ended up winning this round. Jack finally had a win back, a great way to end this trip. It was time for him to start heading home.
Overall, Red Dead Redemption 1 provided Jack with an eventful but dangerous trip, which is not always what you want on a typical vacation. Therefore, it will be receiving a 2 out of 5 Yelp rating. So far, we've explored all time periods besides the future. So what does a vacation look like a century into the future? Let's head to Cyberpunk 2077 to find that out. I woke up the next morning excited for the day, as I had something cool planned. I immediately got heading to the metro station, where I took myself to Pacifica. It was now time for my beach day. So far everything was looking nice, so I had high hopes for the water. It wasn't long though until the rougher side started to show itself, but I kept my hopes high as I made my way to the beach. I noticed a giant roller coaster in the distance, along with a Ferris wheel. Both looked abandoned. As I made my way closer, things started to get rough. The Imperial Mall was also completely abandoned. This whole area had a weird feeling to it.
I had finally made it to the beach area, and from this angle, it looked not too bad. In the distance though, I noticed some commotion. Yeah, I was gonna stay clear from here. It wasn't until I got further onto the beach that I noticed all of the trash. This place was terrible. I was still gonna make the most of it. I already had made it all the way here anyways. It was time for a swim. Honestly, this water was probably super gross, but I didn't care. I took my first plunge into the water. It was fairly clear and very warm. A short swim was enough though. I was not trying to end my vacation early, dying from some sketchy water. That was enough of the beach for now, so I decided to leave. I headed back up to the town area because I wanted to explore around. This place was pretty compact back here. Of course I had to grab some food and then check out some of the stalls. This little settlement was pretty lively over here. I just wished the beach was a little bit nicer. By now the sunset was looking crazy. It was worth it to stay here. Pacifica was decent for a vacation, not the best though. In the terms of Night City, this was going to be the best beach you'd find. That being said, I headed back down to the metro, where I headed back to my apartment and once again headed to bed. It was now day 3 of the vacation, and the weather looked great outside. I had a good plan for today. Like usual, I headed to the metro and headed to my next location. Today's spot was gonna be good. I heard great things about this next place, which was indeed Japantown. Just by looking at the streets here, I could tell how nice this place was gonna be. So far the cleanest place I had been to. It almost felt like a completely different city. Of course I was gonna have to look for something to eat here, which is exactly what I did next. Now I was gonna explore. And well, the first thing I saw was a crime scene, of course. Next I found a street market, which looked really cool. So of course I had to check out some of the stalls. I still never ended up buying anything though. I always just like to look around instead. I left the market and ended up seeing this super cool monument. This statue was massive. It was crazy that you could find something like this in the city. Next, it was time for the infamous Jig Jig Street. And it's safe to say I'd just be looking briefly here. This place is not what I was looking for. Of course it provided the full Japantown experience though. I thought this store was funny, named PP. Next I decided to look for some food in here, which ended up being pretty good. Then I left the area because I had a super cool plan, and that involved leaving the city area. Unfortunately, there was no better way to get to this place besides walk, but this started to show me a cool view of the city, and from here I could barely see where I was heading to. After navigating my way through the sketchy highways, my destination was finally in sight. I was at the Shinto Shrine. This was the perfect spot for a tourist like me, an awesome temple to check out just outside of the city lines. This place was very cool to see and check out in person. I even found a gift shop with some cool items. I wasn't quite sure what these guys were for, and after taking it all in, it was time to leave. The shrine was 100% worth checking out though. I had now made it back into Japantown, and next I wanted to check out by the water. This was a pretty cool view of the city down here. So far, honestly, my vacation was going very well. I got a quick bite to eat again, then I went to find some arcade games. While I was doing that, I noticed a sea of trash. This was crazy. I was ready to play some games though. First up was Trauma Drama. I basically just spammed my way through these levels. This first one was pretty fun. I wanted to find another one though, and that was Roach Race. This one was honestly very fun, except I kept failing. It was something about these classic games in a futuristic world that really grounded me back to reality. I found one more game I wanted to try, and this was a racing one. After that though, to get prepared for tomorrow's plans, I headed to a car rental place where I could get something. With that out of the way, I was ready for tomorrow as I took in the night view of the city and I headed back on the metro. That was a very solid day in Japantown. The next morning I woke up excited because I had even more big plans for my final day. I headed down to pick up my rental car that I ordered yesterday. It was time to leave the city. That's right, today's plan was to leave Night City and explore the outskirts. But first, I had to get there, which took a bit of driving to finally get out. I was now in the far outskirts of the city, heading to my first destination of the day, the solar farms. From above, these things looked crazy. It was just an endless sea of solar panels. Definitely worth checking out. I then left to head to my next destination. It was time for a super windy switchback road, which led me up higher because I wanted to get a good view of the city from above, and this lookout was the perfect place to do so. I took in the city skyline view and just felt happy the vacation was going so well so far. I even got to look through this tower viewer at the city below me. That was enough though, and I got back on the road. While I was driving over this bridge, I looked to my side. I just had to pull over. I could not believe how gross this was. What once was probably some fresh water was now pure garbage. Hopefully I was not drinking that. Once again over another bridge, I couldn't believe my eyes. Outside of the city, they just dumped trash everywhere. To forget about that, I was finally at my next location, where I was at the Sunset Motel. I was here, of course, because they had a bar. I liked the vibe of this one as I walked in, finally getting away from the big city after being there for a while. I sat down at the bar for a drink and ordered one up. I was actually so glad to be away from the city for now. I just needed a moment like this to chill. One drink was good though, so I headed out. It was time to head to one last destination out here, which was the trailer park. You know, I had to check every place out. Of course I had to come here, because they actually had some food to eat too, and it was pretty good. There were also some shops that I checked out, but that was it for my quick stop here. I peeled out of here and started heading back into the city. I had to return my rental car soon, and it was my final day, so I didn't want to be out too late. The sunset looked amazing as I furthered my way in, and as I finally started getting closer, it was now dark. I started driving a little reckless though to get back faster, and I must have made somebody angry, because now all of a sudden I was being ambushed by guns. I crashed my car, being shot from multiple angles. I thought it was over. I had to drive away. They kept on me no matter what though. This was now a life or death situation. My car was about to explode. I had to flee. I was completely defenseless though. My vacation was over.
Well, certainly that vacation did not end well, and overall it might have been one of the grossest so far. There were some redeeming qualities though, so Cyberpunk will receive a final Yelp rating of 1.5 out of 5, making it the lowest so far. So it looks like in the end, GTA 5 prevailed and provided the best overall vacation experience. Cyberpunk is definitely the one to avoid in terms of safety though. So thanks for watching guys. If you want to see any of these full vacation videos, the link is on the screen right now to the full playlist, or click the link in the description or pinned comment below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed.